High in the Alps, where the wind howls and snow blankets the earth, a man died more than 5 millennia ago. He didn't die peacefully. He died running, bleeding, and betrayed only to be swallowed by ice and preserved for eternity. We call him the Iceman, the star of the world's oldest unsolved murder case. Until now, in 1991, 2 hikers stumbled upon what looked like a frozen mountaineer. The body lay face down, skin leathery from centuries of exposure. Authorities at first assumed it was a modern tragedy. They even tried to pry the body free, treating him more like a stubborn pickle jar than a priceless relic. But then they saw the shoes. Not modern boots, but shoes woven from grass and animal hide. Then came the copper axe, pristine, polished, and utterly out of place in the 20th century. That's when the truth hit them. This wasn't a lost climber. This was a man who had lived and died over 5,300 years ago. What followed was one of the most extraordinary discoveries in human history. CI hadn't just been buried, he'd been perfectly preserved, as if the glacier itself had decided to hit save on an entire life. His skin, hair, organs, even the contents of his stomach all intact. Scientists were stunned. And with that preservation came a window into a world long vanished. CI wasn't some primitive wanderer. He was a sophisticated survivor. His clothes were a survivalist's dream. A goat fur coat, sheepskin leggings, and a bear fur hat, a bold fashion choice. His shoes were so advanced they resembled prehistoric Crocs. He carried a backpack frame, a fire-starting kit with flint and tinder fungus, a medicine bundle containing a natural antibiotic, and a flint knife. And most striking of all, he carried a copper axe so finely crafted it was less a tool, and more a status symbol, the ancient equivalent of driving a Mercedes through a village full of donkeys. This was no ordinary man. He was important, prepared, someone who knew how to survive. So why did he end up murdered? The answer lies not in what he had, but in how he died. Forensic scans revealed the cause. An arrow lodged deep in his back, piercing his shoulder and severing a major artery. It was a perfect shot, delivered from behind by someone who waited until CI was exhausted and climbing uphill. He bled out in minutes, collapsing face first, never seeing his killer. But here's the chilling part. Analysis of his belongings revealed traces of 4 different human blood types on his knife and arrows. He had fought. His hands bore fresh cuts and bruises. He'd survived a violent confrontation earlier that day, then fled upward into the freezing heights. Even more haunting, he was repairing his bow when he was killed, preparing for another fight. And yet, despite being armed and wealthy, no one stole his precious copper axe. That detail changes everything. If this had been a robbery, the axe would be gone. This wasn't about greed, it was personal. It was about betrayal. Evidence suggests CI shared a final meal with someone. Pollen in his stomach indicates he had come from a warm valley that same day, climbing thousands of feet in a desperate retreat. Whoever killed him knew where he'd go, knew his habits, knew he trusted them. It wasn't a stranger, it was someone he knew. A rival, a friend turned enemy, a political assassination. The killer walked away, confident the mountain would bury the crime forever. But the glacier didn't cooperate. Instead, it became the world's greatest forensic archive. Scientists reconstructed his last hours like detectives. First, a calm meal of ibex meat and grains. Then, a second, hurried meal, eaten under stress. Then, the fight, the escape, the climb, and finally, the arrow. Ötzi's story shatters the myth of a peaceful, pastoral past. He proves that, 5,000 years ago, Humans were just as complex as we are today, capable of violence and betrayal, but also of innovation and healing. He had over 60 tattoos, many aligned with acupuncture points, likely to treat chronic pain. He understood infection. He carried medicine. He was, in short, us. But CI wasn't the only one trying to survive. While his frozen body waited in the Alps, civilizations rose and fell. In the heart of ancient Rome, long before cafes and food trucks, there was a place where the working class came to eat, gossip, and breathe. The Thermopolium. Imagine a narrow Roman street, sun bouncing off clay tiles, the air thick with chatter. Tucked between a bakery and a linen stall is a small, open-air tavern with a marble counter. This is fast food, Roman style. The counter is lined with terracotta jars sunk into the stone, each holding something warm: lentil stew, olives, spiced chickpeas, and garum for infamous fermented fish sauce. Steam rises. Workers, fishermen, and scribes all come here, balancing bowls in one hand, coins in the other. For most Romans, home meant cramped apartments with no kitchens. Eating out wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. Every day, the city refueled here on cheap, simple food. Conversation flowed faster than the stew. Gladiators, emperors, taxes, scandals. It was chaos, noise, and heat. Pickpockets lurked, gamblers played dice, and street performers entertained. Yet, in this mess, people found belonging. The Thermopolium was more than a place to eat. It was a public living room, a social network before the internet. For a moment, rich and poor stood at the same counter, united by hunger and shared stories. At night, oil lamps flickered. Laborers, soldiers, and gamblers gathered, seeking refuge from the cold and the loneliness. The air thickened with wine, smoke, and laughter. Yes, it was dangerous. Fights broke out, thieves waited. But people kept coming back. Because, in a vast, indifferent empire, this was where the poor felt seen. It wasn't elegant or safe, but it was theirs. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, in Idoperia, Japan, another kind of quiet endurance unfolded. The Ashigaru, low-ranking foot soldiers, lived in barracks under strict discipline. Their days began before dawn, with rituals of sweeping courtyards and polishing spears. They ate simple meals: rice, miso soup, pickles. No luxury, just nourishment. They trained relentlessly, not because war was coming, but because a warrior must always be ready. Yet, between drills and guard duty, these men cultivated rich inner lives. Some wrote haiku, capturing fleeting moments of beauty. Others practiced calligraphy, a meditation in ink. They were warriors without wars, but they were not idle. Their battle was against boredom, against meaninglessness. And in their patience, their routine, and their camaraderie, they held the empire together. Their presence was a silent promise. Peace is not accidental. It is maintained. Decia. The Roman laborer, the Ashigaru, soldier, they lived in different worlds, separated by oceans and millennia. But they share something profound. They were ordinary people, navigating lives shaped by violence, duty, hunger, and hope. Ci died violently, but his body tells a story of resilience. The Romanate, standing, but found community in chaos. The Ashigaru, trained for a war that never came, but found dignity in discipline. They remind us that history isn't just written by kings and conquerors. It's written in last meals, in bloodstains, in worn-out sandals, and in shared bowls of stew. It's written in the quiet, everyday acts of survival. And sometimes, it's preserved in ice for 5,000 years, so we can look back and finally say, I see you, I know you, you were here. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into our incredible past.